Hey, college entrepreneurship scholars. Welcome to Chapter 3, Section 2. And we're going to continue on our identifying opportunity theme that we started in our earlier video on Chapter 3. As you see here, here's the logo of Starbucks, one of the most successful entrepreneurial ventures in recent history. And the founder of Starbucks identified that opportunity as a result of being a salesman for a company that produced coffee making equipment. He was in Seattle, and he recognized that there really wasn't a lot of good coffee shops available that were offering great coffee, and he said, I bet I could do this better. And that's exactly what a entrepreneur does. So let's get started. The concept of innovation is really central to the identification of new opportunities and new ventures and new businesses. And innovation simply is finding new ways of doing things. It's not to say that you have to create the next light bulb. It's just literally saying, is there a better way to do something that may have been done the same way for many, many years? So innovation is key. And you'll hear the term innovators when entrepreneurs are talked about, and that relates to this concept of a new way of doing things. Part of the process in making things happen is, if you come up with an idea, you may say to yourself, geez, I have a great idea for a product, but I don't necessarily know how to design or produce it. I can describe it to somebody on a piece of paper. I can talk to somebody about it, but I wouldn't have the idea, I wouldn't have the basic understanding of how to actually put together the engineering blueprints and or the molds associated with the product, or how to produce it in a manufacturing environment. And that's what strategic alliances are all about. They're forming partnerships just like the superheroes form partnerships with another company who does have that expertise, who can help you out. And so strategic alliances are very, very important in the entrepreneurship area, especially in the startup phases. Once you become successful, you may be able to do many of those things yourself, and it may be more economical for you to do those yourself. But at the startup, strategic alliances are extremely important. Okay, in the first video on this section, we talked about demographics, and we're going to talk about demographics again. Demographics are the primary method of identifying consumer markets. We'll talk about other methods like psychographics in later chapters, but you really have to have a good understanding of what demographics are. And this particular image as shown here has a great illustration of the types of demographic characteristics that are typically captured by companies. Income is a primary characteristic that people will capture. Education, race or ethnicity, whether someone is foreign-born or born in the U.S., another one. Age, religion, those are all demographic characteristics that are used to describe a market that a new business or an existing business is going after. They are the characteristics that describe a particular population and or market. Okay, goodwill again, and this is a repeat from the first presentation on chapter 3, but it cannot be overemphasized. The success of a business is totally dependent, 98% of the time, on its customer loyalty. If a business does not have repeat customers, it's going to die. It is absolutely going to die. And that's why customer loyalty and customer goodwill and business goodwill are used over and over again and are used interchangeably, because without it, a business can survive for a short period of time, but not over the long term. Okay, so how do you reach particular markets? What is a good way to find out about a market, to identify potential strategic partners? One of the ways to do that is to look at and subscribe to trade magazines. Trade magazines are typically magazines that are associated with a particular industry. They chronicle what is going on in that particular industry. So, for instance, in the computer industry, one of the trade magazine Bibles is Computer Weekly, as shown here. In the stock market industry, one of the Bibles in that area is, in terms of trade magazines, is Investors Chronicle. So trade magazines are an important way to learn about a particular market, identify potential strategic partners, or make for strategic alliances, and also could provide some advertising opportunities to reach your particular market, depending upon the nature of that particular market. Now, there are other things called specialty magazines. Now, these differ from trade magazines in that they're not necessarily associated with a particular industry, but they're associated with a particular interest. For instance, you see over to the far right a magazine about horses. If you're into horses, that's a particular interest you have. You might subscribe to that particular specialty magazine. Urban farming. If you're like totally into organic food, you might be subscribing to the Urban Farming magazine. If you're into hunting, and an area of hunting is called skeet shooting, you might subscribe to the skeet shooting magazines. Those would be considered specialty magazines. Okay, one of the areas that we talked about is franchises in the earlier video. The question becomes, how do you become a franchise owner? And a franchise owner is called a franchisee. Someone who buys a franchise is a franchisee, but the person that actually sells the franchise to someone like yourself would be called a franchisor. And they would be headquartered, just like any other company, in a particular large city. For instance, McDonald's, is headquartered in Oak Brook, Illinois. They have their world headquarters in Oak Brook. So if you were interested in becoming a franchisee, you would go to the franchise headquarters of McDonald's, and McDonald's again would be known as a franchisor in that particular case, and you would ask to become one of their particular franchise owners in a particular area. Probably be difficult to get a franchise in the Chicagoland area, because the Chicagoland area is reasonably saturated with McDonald's. But if you're willing to move to, let's say, North Dakota or some other state where they may not have as many McDonald's franchises, or even a different country, they would probably be interested in discussing that with you. But obviously, there's many other franchisors available that you could take advantage of, from Subway to KFC to Taco Bell, as we talked about earlier. So, guys, that was a relatively short one. We're going to close it here. And again, thanks for listening. And we'll have a quiz tomorrow, and I know you guys will all do fantastic. So have a great evening.